off the main card of UFC 280, the former EFC flyweight champ, the beast, Manon Fiorot. Oui, c'est comment c'est prononcé. She's taking on the former bantamweight and flyweight CFFC champ, blonde fighter. Describe yourself. Katlyn Chookagian. Matt, I'm going to assume that the commenters underneath this video, about 80 to 90% of them, are going to want to see new blood in the women's flyweight division. They want to see a new matchup for Valentina Shevchenko, and they're all going to pick Manon Fiorot. You agree with that one?
I would agree with that, but I got to be honest. If you just want to ask me at my most casual how I would like this fight to go, I'm not going to lie. I'd love there be a new power puncher to go up against Valentina Shevchenko, but I agree with what your sentiment is on that point. I think a lot of people are going to try to favor, I shouldn't even say younger, because they are fairly close in age, but the newer commodity, the more power punching of the two in Manon Fiorot.
For Manon Fiorot, it has been talked about for as long as we've known about her, the fact that she is a striking dynamo. Obviously, we know the sidekick, we know the combinations with the boxing, how good she is at closing distance, and hey, how about her last time out against Jennifer Maia, where you'd think Maia would excel on the ground? Fiorot was the one that was initiating the takedowns in the fight. She was dominant, as we've seen her, except for maybe the finish that she had against Victoria Leonardo. But for Fiorot, looked very good against the former title challenger her last time out and picked up a giant win. Now, all of a sudden, you're the 7th-ranked women's flyweight in Fiorot, taking on the perennial one to the champion in Katlyn Chookagian, always the bridesmaid, never the bride, gets another opportunity here to turn away a likely contender in Fiorot.
Katlyn Chookagian slowly becoming the Derek Brunson of this division. Now, it hasn't happened just yet, and Derek Brunson went from being ranked 3rd to being ranked 8th somehow, but
she's today's Robert Whittaker.
Robert Whittaker, I think, could still maybe beat Israel Adesanya. I don't think there's a chance in hell that Katlyn Chookagian ever beats Valentina Shevchenko. But I'll go back to my, presenting voice now. The thing about Chookagian is, and I think you'll agree with me on this, she just knows how to beat contenders at this point. It is nice to see, and it does feel like we do have a few different divisions that have these number one contender B, if you will. There is Robert Whittaker, for instance, at middleweight. You've got Colby Covington at welterweight. There are some fighters now who it's like, okay, I've beaten everybody but the champion. How much more do I have to do to finally get another shot at the title? And for Chookagian, it is kind of weird because she's not a finisher. So for Chookagian, I think it is going to be really hard to prove to the UFC, okay, I've made this big of a step so that now it is going to be competitive against me and Shevchenko. But that's the fun thing about this fight. Let's see who are really convinced that Manon Fiorot is the new hotness. And I'll be honest, I wasn't 100% sold on her. I was 90% sold on her until her last matchup against Jennifer Maia, because we all know how talented of a fighter Maia is. I would argue that until Tyler Santos fought Valentina Shevchenko, Maia was probably the most competitive with her outside of Joanna, and Joanna's one of the greatest female fighters we've ever seen. So I definitely agree with where a lot of fans are coming from. I personally also agree. Would it be exciting to see Manon Fiorot versus Valentina Shevchenko? Of course. But do you know what I really like about Katlyn Chookagian and why she's that great number one contender and a half? She's good at everything. You are going to get tested in that one area of your game that Valentina Shevchenko isn't going to test. She's going to exploit and then finish you by it. If Manon Fiorot does have terrible takedown defense or does really struggle off her back in sort of the more elongated exchanges, then Katlyn Chookagian does have the skill set that can really find that hole in your game. We all know how good her volume striking is on the back foot, but it wasn't that long ago she was going for a lot of offensive takedowns against Antonina Shevchenko. And I know Antonina's not the best fighter in the division, but still, the fact that Chookagian was able to show us just that other part of her game to where we know how good of a striker you are, now we know how good you are at grappling at the UFC level, that gave me more confidence in Chookagian, at least in this matchup.
Chookagian came into the UFC in 2016. She's 11-4 in that time. She did get the title shot in 11 of 14, or 15 rather, total UFC fights. She's the favorite. She was the underdog against Valentina Shevchenko. She was the underdog against Antonina Shevchenko, the underdog against Jessica Andrade, and the underdog against Cynthia Calvillo. So only as of recently, Chookagian's been an underdog, and this is split between bantamweight and flyweight. Don't forget that.
And she fought good fighters in the bantamweight division, too.
Yeah, and she's 2-2 in those underdog spots, so good opportunity for her, whereas Manon Fiorot has been a big favorite in every single UFC fight. Minus 200 against Leonardo, finishes her. Minus 550 against Tabitha Ricci, finishes her. Minus 275 against Maeda Buena Silva, decisions her. And then against one Jennifer Maia, minus 510. That seems wild, but that was it. So in this pairing, Fiorot opened a minus 150 15. She's a minus 208. Chookagian open as the underdog. She's still the underdog at a plus 180. So plus 210, or sorry, minus 210 Fiorot we'll call it, and plus 180 for Chookagian. We have a look at the fan vote, Matt. Again, it is a surprise to us, it is to you, and I haven't been good at setting these over-unders tonight, but I will say for Fiorot, I feel like she's going to have the fan support. Everybody's going to be there. I'm going to say over-under 70%, though.
I think it'll be under.
You think it's going to be under? It's slightly over. 1,124 total votes, 72% Fiorot, 74% par décision, puis pour Katlyn Chookagian, 28%, puis 86% par décision pour Chookagian. I don't know why they've gone with Manon Fiorot. I don't know where that came from because I've heard her say her own name multiple times, say Fiorot. But regardless, Matt, what is the pick here? Because you talked about it. Chookagian with the wrestling, we've seen the improvement. Belmore kickboxing. She's a Renzo Gracie fighter. If you do look at it for Chookagian, great volume striking forward and backward. Fiorot, a little bit more pop on those shots. Also very good at striking backwards and forwards. Also like the tennis player that is when she strikes, because there's the big ha-ha when she does it. But for you, what is the pick here?
I'm going to compare Manon Fiorot to Derek Jeter. And just sit with me for 2 seconds. Derek Jeter, a lot of people who don't like the Yankees just say he's the most overrated player of all time. He's very overrated. That's a term you'll hear thrown around with him quite a bit. And I look at Manon Fiorot a lot like Derek Jeter, and please hear me out. She has been the big favorite in all of her fights, but when has she not proven that she's supposed to be? Like, Manon Fiorot's always been able to demonstrate the exact same skill set, no matter who the opponent is. Think about Amanda Lemos, who I would say, honestly, stylistically, has a lot of the same positives that Manon Fiorot has. The difference is, Amanda Lemos has run into volume strikers where she's had trouble with. She's run into some wrestlers that she's had trouble with. With Fiorot, she hasn't really disproven the fact that she should be a favorite in a lot of her fights. Now, I'm going to be honest. I really thought I'd come into this video thinking, oh, Katlyn Chookagian's going to win this fight. Because like I said, the experience is on her side. She just knows how to win these fights. And I know that's a weird thing to say, but just think of yourself in any situation you've ever been in life. The first time you do it, you're probably going to be a little bit anxious about it. You know what happens the second time you do it? You just think about the first time you did it, and you don't worry about all the unknowns.
Matt's talking about blasting.
Just talk about anything, honestly. Talk about blasting if you want to. But that's my whole point. Just like the first time you do get in with the big dogs, if you will, you're going to face that anxiety. Where with Fiorot, I feel like she has been able to fight at least a title challenger in the past. I think that's a big hurdle to get over. Because if Fiorot just went from beating the Victoria Leonardos of the world, but finishing them, don't get me wrong, to fighting Katlyn Chookagian, I'd be a lot more worried about Fiorot if that was the case, if that was the jump up in competition. But I really do feel like she showed me enough in her last time out against Jennifer Maia to make me confident in picking her in this matchup. Now, again, I can't throw up enough red flags because I really do think Katlyn Chookagian is a valid opponent and one of the best litmus tests for anybody in any division, if we're being honest. Like, that's how high I think of Katlyn Chookagian. But I do think this is the time where Manon Fiorot, it is time for her to finally fight for the title, and I think if she's able to beat Chookagian, she will.
Fiorot's lone loss in her pro debut, a loss by split decision to Bellator superstar Leah McCourt. Exactly. That one was at a catchweight of 138 pounds, which Fiorot's at a disadvantage there. Chookagian, not a weight bully, but she was a former bantamweight in her own right. But we do have a look at this one. Fiorot, positive 4.08 strike differential in the UFC. That's massive. Chookagian obviously throws great volume, but I do like Manon Fiorot in this matchup to mix it up. I think this is a great pairing. You're not wrong until Saturday, so let us know down below in that comment section. We've been talking about you the whole time, except for the blasting part, so let us know who you have in this matchup. Some big-time fights on this main card. Let's break it down. Gamrot, Dariush, Jan, O'Malley. 2 title fights. Holy smokes.
What is there not to like?
Lightweight. What is there not to like? The Sidekick is live on Saturday night. So listen, keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks. We always say, let's get into it.